everyone, and welcome to the next video in a series where I'm showing you step-by-step how I create planner, journal, and notebook modules in Affinity Publisher for iPad. In the first few videos in the series, intended for beginners to the app, I'm doing a complete walkthrough of the user interface. In the last video, we toured the live doc screen, where you can organize your open documents and projects, and you can open and create new ones. In this video, we'll open up the new document dialog box and talk about working with built-in presets as well as how to create your own. And we'll talk about the various options available to you in setting up a new document. Now, I do want to note, this series is specific to the iPad version of the app. But for those of you on the desktop, don't worry, there's more coming for you, so stay tuned. Let's get started. When creating a new document, you can either choose a preset or key in your own dimensions from the start. You can also start with a preset and then adjust it from there. Let's take a look at the presets first. They're broken down into categories like print, press ready, web, and each preset not only sets the specific size for that preset, but also the DPI and color format based on the category it's in. For example, a letter-sized document from the print category will be set up as 8.5 by 11 inches at 300 DPI with an RGB color format, whereas letter size from the press ready category would provide the same dimensions in DPI, but the color format would be CMYK for the printing press. Once I've selected a preset, I can change its orientation by clicking between these two icons at the top, and you can see as I do that, the orientation on the right side is changing as well. I can also create my own categories as well as save my own presets using the options down here at the bottom. We'll go into more detail on that in a bit. Let's move over to the right side. Again, I can either start with a preset and adjust it, or I can key in my own information right from the start. Now the width, height, and DPI are self-explanatory, so I'll move to document units. In this case, I had set up a letter-sized document in inches, but I find it easier to work in either pixels or points, so I can change that here. You can see that I can use either the arrows or I can use the drop-down box, and once I've done that, the information under the width and height change to match. Image placement allows me to set whether I want my image files embedded within the document or linked from an external source. Let's talk a little bit more about that because that's an important consideration when you're setting up your document. An embedded document is a copy of the original, and any changes that I make to it are local to that file. It's not going to impact the original file at all. Now, the benefit of using embedded is its portability. I don't have to have that file tied to an external folder. Now, I do want to note, when I'm talking about embedded and linked, I'm specifically talking about the original publisher file, not the final exported output like the PDF created for Goodnotes. The trade-off with using an embedded document is that large files, especially large raster files, will increase the size of my document, and that can tax my iPad if I save them there, or take up a lot of space if I save them elsewhere. Linked means that any image files I place are not embedded within the document, but rather linked from an external folder. The benefit of this is I don't weigh my file down, especially when I'm using something like texture, which we all know that by nature can be rather large file sizes. The other benefit is that any changes that you make to the original can be made to the linked files they're in as well. The trade-off with using linked is that I lose that portability though. In order to use the images, the link between the folder they're in and my publisher file has to remain intact. Now personally, I tend towards using embedded, and I'm just very careful about the types of texture I use and how much, but you should use whichever is going to work best for you, your iPad, and your storage setup. At the very bottom, you can decide if you want to create your canvas with a single default master page already in place. I'm not going to go into great detail about master pages here as I have an entire video dedicated to them when we set up the backgrounds for our planners. But the long story short is the master pages allow you to create a set layout that can be applied across multiple content pages all at once. They're not required, some projects don't need them, but if you do set one up here, you'll start with one in place and can add more within the canvas. If you decide not to set one up here but find you later need it, you can set it up within the canvas and apply it after the fact. Facing pages at the top right will allow you to either set up single pages or multiple pages in a spread, either horizontally like a traditional magazine or book, or vertically. If you do opt for using facing pages, you can decide whether you want them to start on the left or the right. The side that you start on and the number of pages you set up is going to determine whether you have a single page to start and end, or all of your pages are going to be multi-page spreads. Let me show you what I mean. If I set up 6 pages starting on the right side, let me click OK and show you what the canvas ends up looking like. So here I have a single page as the very first page. Now if I go to my pages here, you can see page 1 is by itself. Remember, even though I set up facing pages, I started on the right side. Pages 2 and 3, as well as 4 and 5, are multi-page spreads, and then page 6 is on the left side as a single page. This is an example of how you could use that. So this is set up the exact same way as that other canvas. I have a single page starting on the right, and that's page 1, which I've used just for a cover. The pages in between are set up as multi-page spreads where I have my monthly grid, my daily pages, and things like that. I'm back in that other canvas, and if I were to change my document setup so that this is on the left instead, you can see it automatically adjusts my layout so that my first 2 pages are side by side and I have no single pages. I use that to set something like this up where I have a desktop as my first page and I have, say, a little piece of notebook paper here that I can write some scratch notes, and then that starts the rest of my planner. So these are just some covers, and you can see that it goes right into side-by-side pages throughout the rest of the document. We're back in the new document dialog box, and again, the color format at the bottom right is going to be selected based on the preset you choose, but you can change that if you need to. Now for digital planners, you can leave your color format set to RGB because these are not going to be printed at all. I don't need a transparent background, but if I found that I needed one, for example, in creating digital stickers and I forgot to toggle this on, I can always change that within my document. Moving over to margins and bleed, I'm not going to set up a margin here. In fact, I usually turn it off here because I prefer to do that within the canvas so that I can see what I'm doing, and I'll explain why in an upcoming video. And if you're using Publisher to create a press-ready document that does need to be printed and needs to take bleed into account, you can set that up here as well. One final thing I want to talk about is setting up custom presets. As you begin to create your own digital products using Publisher for iPad, you might find that you're consistently creating canvases that fall outside the parameters of the built-in presets. So Publisher gives you the ability to create your own category as well as canvas presets. Once you have set all of your parameters on the right, just head down to the bottom of the presets window. If you're adding to an existing category, you can just start with the first icon. So you'll key in the name, you'll find the category you're adding it to, and then you'll go ahead and hit OK. If you need to set up a category first, start with the second icon. Name your category and click OK. Then go back to the first one to set up the preset. If you want to rename a preset, select this third option, and you can do that here. You can rename categories by tapping on the edit icon under each individual category. So you can see next to my presets here, I can tap this and I can change this from my presets to something else. Be very careful not to hit the delete button next to that unless you actually intend to delete it, because there's not a way of getting it back. You can reorder your presets and categories with the fourth option here at the bottom. Tapping once is going to allow you to reorder the individual canvas presets. Tapping it a second time is going to allow you to reorder the categories, and then tapping a third time is going to allow you to exit out of both. All right, I have my document all set up, so I'll go ahead and click OK, and I'm all set to begin creating my new planner. We've covered a lot of information in this tutorial, so please let me know below if you have any questions. Again, this is one lesson in a series of Publisher for iPad tutorials. If you have a particular topic you'd like to see covered as part of the series, let me know below. If I'm not already in the process of creating it, I'll look to adding it to the list. I have a lot more content coming up on my YouTube channel and all of the Affinity apps, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, you might want to check out one of these two next. Thanks for watching.